Hey, Newsa-cast listeners. Just want to give you a little information about the mission of the Newsa-cast. Our mission stems from the mission of the Red Smith Banquet, and that mission was to support youth sports in the Fox Valley. Over the 57 years of its existence, we've been honored to give out over $1 million to various youth sports organizations throughout the Fox Valley. The Newsa-cast is looking to continue that mission and support youth sports as well. You can help us do that by donating to the Newsa-cast and the Red Smith Sports Banquet.
On today's Newsa-cast, we're talking baseball and we're talking hip-hop. Hip-hop, baseball, we're talking to Korey Krueger. Tosh and I take an old look at new, which is presented by Raleigh Winter & Associates, our Red Smith Banquet Throwback. It's a GOAT, folks. It's a Hall of Famer. One of the greatest of all time, Bob Gibson. Tosh and I end the show like we always do with It's Forgotten and I'm Never Forgetting. So what do you say, folks? Let's grip that baseball and let's fire that two-seam fastball high and tight. Let's get this show on the road.
I would also say this. Baseball and softball requires so much skill. I mean, there's no other sport where you have to run, catch, hit, and throw, and know the rules. Baseball and softball require more time. The skills are just too hard because if it was easy to hit, everyone would do it. The kinetic chain to pitch a ball, to field a ground ball and throw it to first, I mean, it probably is as complicated as something as kicking a field goal.
Welcome to the Newsa-cast. What is a Newsa-cast? It's where we bring local folk stories to life through conversation.
Hey, Newsa-cast listeners, welcome to another week of the Newsa-cast. We are obviously excited that you're joining us. We appreciate everybody tuning in, and remember to tell your friends and family and neighbors to join as well if you like what you're hearing. But yeah, we got a good episode this week. We have a lot of baseball talk. Even though it is the start of football season, we have a great interview. Joe got to sit down with the one and only Korey Krueger.
Yeah, absolutely, Tosh. I'm a little perplexed right now because you're right. It's a baseball episode, but football's back, baby. Football's back, right?
It is. It is back.
At least high school football.
Yeah, the high schools start their first games this week. So, shout out to all those high school football players and, some good games right off the bats. Week one, you never know what's going to happen. But it's going to be a fun Friday night lights. It's nice and cool yet on Friday before it gets hot this weekend, but it should be fantastic. School's right around the corner. Those kids are going to be out cheering on their friends on the football field, and it's always a good time.
No, absolutely, Tosh. And most of so games are on Thursday as well. I know Appleton North opens up on Thursday.
Yep.
Appleton East, I believe, plays on Thursday.
Yeah.
The big one, Xavier, we've talked about them, new turf field at Xavier.
Right.
So we come to find out that the great Rocky Blyer is going to be there for a pregame. So
absolutely.
The inaugural game at Rocky Blyer Field. Rocky Blyer is going to be there and playing on new turf, Tosh. That's going to be pretty cool.
That is going to be cool. FBL takes on Two Rivers on Friday at FBL for their initial varsity game. So check that out if you're in the area as well. So, yeah,
absolutely.
Lots of good stuff. And, lots of good stuff, period. We can go back and talk a little bit about the interview, too. Korey Krueger, he is a baseball, softball coach, coached at Lawrence, but people may not know he's also a musician. He's also an author, and you're going to hear a lot about all of that. I was busy and I couldn't sit down with my former head coach. I got to coach 9 years at Lawrence University with Korey as one of his assistants for the baseball team. It was fabulous.
No, it was. We talked about that, Tasha. Your name came up several times, and I know for those of you out there, a little peek behind the curtain once in a while. this isn't our full-time job, right, Tosh? And
Right.
the toughest challenge for us is literally trying to get interviews lined up, and we like to shoot the breeze, so it takes a little bit of takes a chunk of time. So that's not always easy to get 3, sometimes 4 people on the same Zoom call, so to speak, and had to take that one solo. But yeah, Korey it is pretty incredible when you think about it. You're right. He's an author. I almost forgot to ask him about it because he's involved in so many other things. But, baseball, we all know the Kruegers, his brothers, his whole family are sports. Basically, they play all the sports, football and basketball, but baseball in particular. And really more than anything, if you know Joe, if you know Kirby, if you know Korey, humor is really at the forefront of it all. And that came out loud and clear. And
they can also carry a conversation.
Oh, can they ever? And the invitations, it's pretty epic.
Well, that's going to be excellent. I mean, you get into Lawrence, you're going to get into the school, which is a softball program. I'm obviously talking about his band and author as well. So, I hope you guys, sit back and enjoy that. It's going to be a ride, and it'll be exciting and fun as well. But, besides that, Joe, what's been going on in your world?
Well, Tosh, we getting a lot of marble jokes, Tosh. Getting a lot of marble-themed jokes, in particular leather bag jokes. I know it's a kid's show, but
remember the families.
Yes. But, you're never too old for that kind of humor. But that goes back to, it speaks a little bit to what we're doing on the social side. So you ask what I've been up to. I haven't really done anything too exciting other than kind of work on with Lindsay, just working on her social, Tosh. And we're taking a step up where a lot of our shorts, I want to thank everybody out there. We had one that, Tosh, we had 3.7 thousand views on the Nolan Ryan short that Lindsay put together off of Never Forgetting piece that you did, or I can't even remember what segment it was, but you talked about Nolan Ryan. Yeah, Old Looking New. Yep. See, I can't remember crap, Tosh. But yeah, we're having fun with social. So thank you everybody that's following us and watching our content and liking it. And if you do hop on any of our social pages, please hit subscribe. That is the toughest thing to seem to raise that number, as a subscription number. So if you think of it, hit that bell, hit that thumb, hit whatever the subscribe button is.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, that
cheap plug.
The cheap plug, but that was a good one with Nolan Ryan and Robin Ventura. Classic baseball fight, and the old guy getting the upper hand, which is pretty fun.
I must have watched that 15 times, Tosh, since this was up there. And I mean, it was just incredible. The headlock and the uppercuts. There had to be 4 uppercuts before anybody even touched Nolan Ryan. It was, that was great. It
was pretty epic.
Was so great.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, Tosh, I haven't been doing too many fun things, dodging raindrops. But you, on the other hand, I know have been doing a little bit of traveling. You spent some time down in Nashville.
Yeah, we went down to Nashville. We got to hit the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky. Hit like Louisville, Lexington, Frankfurt, Bardstown, and just absolutely enjoyed ourselves. The history, I would recommend anybody to go, even if you're not a huge bourbon fan, just to hear a little bit about the history of it. Buffalo Trace in Frankfurt, Kentucky, absolutely incredible, fantastic tour. Buildings from the 1800s, the oldest continuously distilling distillery in the United States. They even distilled during Prohibition for medicinal reasons. So
yeah, of course,
it was awesome, and you got to drink some nice bourbons as well. And I got to see some live music in Nashville, some of the side places in East Nashville. And obviously, if you're in Nashville, you have to hit South Broadway at least once.
Yeah.
And we hit that. And I tell you what, 10:30 in the morning, stuff is still kicking. And it's kicking. It's going. Bands are in every single place. People are already drinking. It's something else. It's a show.
That's what you were saying. 10:30 a.m. and you're just going strong in the bar.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah. I know people are younger than me, but I was thinking, man, I'd be in bed by 4:00.
Yeah.
But,
oh my God. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Maybe younger, kick that second wind and finish the night strong. I don't know.
Tosh, I had a 4 a.m. night on Mile of Music that weekend, and that was I needed like 4 days to recover from that.
That is true. Hey, speaking of Mile of Music as well, this is coming out on Thursday, but the 24th on Sunday, the 24th is a Saturday, Sunday, the 24th of August. One of our future interviews, Ben Mulwana, is going to be playing at the Fox River House with the one and only Diggstown opening up as well. So you should get to the Fox River House and check out that show. It's going to be absolutely epic and amazing. And, when that interview does come out with Ben, it's a fantastic interview listening to his story. And he's also an excellent musician. So it'll be a fantastic show.
That's a great lineup. You're right. Yeah, follow any Fox River House, Diggstown, or Ben, any of his socials. They're on everything as well. Yeah. They'll keep you up to date on the show, if weather's good or bad and all of that. But yeah, what a lineup, Tosh. I wish I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. The gig starts a little bit early at like 3 or 4 in the afternoon, right? I think so. It's sort of, unfortunately I'm going to be delivering mail at that time, Tosh, but
well, that's not
I'll
good.
see if I can get the downtown route. Maybe I can hang out and deliver mail down by.
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can pull Ethan or Will down that afternoon. Yeah. So
no, that'll be good.
That'll be a good show. So some more on this episode. You're going to see a throwback as well with Bob Gibson, and that's going to be fantastic as well. Another classic baseball player. So I don't know, Joe. What do you think?
Tosh, I think we keep this thing moving. You're right. Bob Gibson, little Korey Krueger, a lot of baseball, but you and I are going to take an old look at new first. It's that time again, once again, for an old look at new, brought to you by Raleigh Winter and Associates, celebrating 55 years. Did you know that in 1962, an Appleton junior high school teacher with a strong work ethic started a residential realty company? His name, Raleigh Winter. 3 generations later, the Winters still hold true to a strong work ethic and an excellent reputation in the community. Today, Raleigh Winter and Associates remain actively involved in providing retail, office, and industrial users an affordable, well-designed working environment through the creation and/or acquisition of quality real estate in the Fox cities and even beyond new. So what do you say? Let's take an old look at new.
Hey, Newsa-cast listeners, it is time for our little look at history, and we take a look at the world around us, and sometimes we hit it, sometimes we miss it, but
swing and a miss.
What do you got today?
Well, Tosh, I hope this isn't a swing and a miss, but it is definitely missing from our current landscape of youth baseball. And I'm talking about a time, and I know you're well aware of this because you actually went through the program, but there was a time back in Appleton and the Fox cities where you played Little League baseball. And when you turned 13, 14, between that age gap between there and Legion baseball, you played what was known as Babe Ruth baseball. Yeah. And yeah, that was big time. I mean, that was all over the country. It still exists to some extent in certain pockets, but Cal Ripken, maybe people are familiar with that name. That kind of is around as well, but it's nothing like its heyday, Tosh, was it? When Babe Ruth baseball ruled coming out of Little League, it was a progression for sure. And
that was all there was. There wasn't the clubs at that time. So you played Babe Ruth and you tried out for the All-Star team. And that was your travel if you made the All-Star team, and you compete to go to state and compete to go to the Babe Ruth World Series. So
yeah, you're 100% right. I forgot about that. You're right. You played for the All-Star team, and then the All-Star team would try to advance. And of course, now with sort of similar to what's happening here with the Little League World Series that's going on currently, but that in Babe Ruth form. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's just because we were slightly older. When you're 13, maybe you're a little more mature, but I felt like the uniforms were just cooler in Babe Ruth, and it was just better.
Yeah, and we played all our games at Memorial Park. All Diamonds there, and there was an East Side team and a West Side team. So we had the rivers separating, and you had playoffs, and it was cool. It was legit. A lot of fun. Yeah, it was legit for sure.
Not 100% sure what happened, Tosh. A lot of rumors out there, but that's not for us to say. Just only know that one time, not so long ago, that we had Babe Ruth baseball here in Appleton. I know they played out at USA as well. But anyway, Tosh, that's my old look at new. How about you? What are you taking a look at?
Well, I'm going to go back 50 years ago on August 18th, 1974. And that was the day that Robin Yount had his major league debut in a Brewers uniform. Rockin' Robin. And they just celebrated it on the 18th on Sunday's game. They had him up in the announcer's booth. If you watch the game, he is still fantastic.
Looks great.
He still looks great. He couldn't throw. He threw out the first pitch, but he used his left hand because he wanted his grandson out there. Because he's had like 3 rotator cuff surgeries.
Right.
But he's just such a genuine guy yet. And just listening to his interviews, he never wanted to talk about himself. He was talking about other people all the time. Just a great guy. That's one of the guys I grew up watching. Him and Paul Molitor. Those were the 2 guys. Those were the premier Brewers.
Absolutely. Yeah, me too. Absolutely loved him. He was just fluid on the field, not only at shortstop, but center field, winning an MVP at both. And he was a recipient, I believe, of the Red Smith Award one year at the Red Smith Banquet. Kind of cool.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, he was just, that guy was, talk about just a smooth hitting stroke. Man, think about that, Tosh. The Brewers had Molitor and Yount, 2 of the greatest swings in baseball back to back.
That's exactly it. That's amazing. I mean, both of those guys, both 3,000, both in the Hall of Fame. 2 of the premier baseball players to play the game.
And I mean, guys like Cooper and Gantner and Ogilvy, I mean, those guys weren't anything to sneeze at either. They could hit the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are some heydays. And I believe there is a movie coming out that is about the 1982 season.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I forgot when it's coming out. I know they mentioned it during the game yesterday. So I'll have to keep our eyes on that and ears open on when we do that. But that's going to be a fantastic documentary to hear about that 82 season.
And the best part is, the constant Euchre is still the man.
He is still the man. He's still doing it. I still love listening to him. Is he 92 now?
Something
like that. 92 years old, which is absolutely crazy. I hope, the Brewers are having a great season right now. They're 11 games up in the division. Nobody expected them to be where they are. I just want them to pull one out. It'd be fantastic if they could pull one out for Euchre. That'd be awesome.
Could you imagine?
Oh, I can't.
I went down this rabbit hole. I've been old Bob Euchre and Johnny Carson clips from like the early 70s. Oh my God, those are so funny, Tosh. His sense of humor, that dryness. I again, delivering mail, just busting out laughing, walking up to people's porches. It's so funny. So funny.
Yeah. I mean, Robin Yount and Euchre go back together. I mean, they kind of came through together. I mean, Euchre's been doing it 50 plus years. So, they've been together a long time. I know they're still good friends and everything as well. So yeah, Robin Yount, 50 years, Brewers, still does stuff with the Brewers, coached with Dale Swaim when Ned Yost got released. He's still a big part. I think he is still an owner or part owner of the Chinooks, which is that summer team out of the Milwaukee area for college. So yeah, great guy. Good memories there.
Nah, absolutely. That's awesome. That's awesome. Rockin' Robin, number 19, Robin Yount.
And we can't forget to mention that if it wasn't for a certain business, we wouldn't have an old look at new, would we, Joe?
I always blends right into the forgetting and forgotten because I always forget, Tosh, but absolutely. Mr. Chris Winter, Mr. Raleigh Winter and Associates, they're the fine folks that bring us an old look at new. They're baseball fans as well, big Brewer fans as well. So very appropriate that they sponsor this. And Tosh, that's our old look at new this week. I do want to talk about, I mean, it's weird with you, right? I mean, you have like two huge things going on. You have, I mean, the baseball side of Korey Krueger, and then the illegenecy side, which seems to be just kind of, you guys really seem to be almost exploding right now in the last year or two, like seem to be ramping up.
It's crazy, you know. And then I'm also got the writer side too, because I'm writing too. I got a book out.
Exactly.
Lots going on.
Exactly. You got to get into printing so you can print me a program so I can keep track of what you have going on.
That's right.
Well, let's start at the very kind of in the beginning, because I mean, I've known you for a long time. I've known the Krueger name pretty much my whole life. And when you think of the Krueger name, you think of, well, I think of two things. I think of unbelievable humor. And then I also think of just great athletes. I mean, your whole family, all of you guys, everybody is literally almost the best athlete in their class, kind of athlete.
I don't know about it. When you say funny, I agree with that. I think everyone except, I'm the least funniest of all of us. My brother Joe is clearly the funniest. There's no doubt. He is one of the funniest people I've ever met in my life.
You're so right. It is absolutely incredible how you're not lying there at all. It's unbelievable. Like, he could legit be a professional.
Yeah. If he spends 5 minutes with you, he can impersonate you. It's humbling, but at the same time, it's really, really amazing. I've watched him. He picks up on people's idiosyncrasies so quickly and mimics them very well. And it's like, the highest form of flattery, as they say, but it's, I've actually been, out with him, and, he meets somebody and he has them down pat and does it right back at him after someone mentions, "Oh, I heard you're a good impersonator." And he'll do it right back at that person, and the person sits there with their mouth open. You know what I mean? It's quick.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's a talent, really. It's like none I've ever seen. So when you guys are growing up, I mean, you're in the household. I mean, where was that humor developed? Because you guys, you literally all have it. I mean, you can all. You cut yourself a little. I mean, you have a great impersonation as well, but you all have that dry, quick-witted sense of humor. I mean, were your parents like that, or where does that even come from? Because it's predominant in all of you.
I think it comes from this, and sometimes, like, when you have a difficult upbringing, that's where it comes from.
Sure.
And you always hear about these comedians or whatever, but our situation wasn't awesome. My father was out of the picture. My dad had a lot of things going on, and my mom really raised us. She was a tremendous woman and just the strongest person in the world that I've ever met. And she had a really good sense of humor. And I think she always found humor in everything, and that was her way of coping. And we, because of our stress level and the seriousness of our situation, we all developed that. And we found joy in each other's company. We always tried to outdo each other. And to this day, we're still like it's very difficult to get a word in the holidays at a Krueger Christmas table.
I would imagine. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. You're best to be a fly on the wall.
Oh, God. Yeah. It's sometimes you leave with a headache.
It's good to hear, though, that you guys are tight. And I know it was a tough upbringing, and it's interesting that you say that about humor. I think I cope with life very, very similar to that. And in humor it's a great masking agent for sure, but it's also, there's a lot of joy with it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Yeah.
So you had the humor, but obviously, you guys equally were all great at sports. Especially the sport of baseball. You were great at all of them, but baseball in particular. Kirby, your oldest brother, goes on and he has a professional career. All of you probably could sniff a professional career, but baseball, is that your favorite, or is that like asking you who your favorite kid is?
I think all of us have different favorites. The funny thing is, I loved basketball the most. Okay. But the problem was I wasn't very good at it. I didn't really develop a left hand early on. And I loved playing basketball. I loved refereeing basketball. I loved everything about it.
Wait, I got to stop you. Wait, you say that again? You loved refereeing?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I still do. I don't do it as much. I'm busy, but I had so much fun. Because I used to referee kids. We'd start at 8 a.m. And get done at 6:30 for the rec department sometimes.
Right.
It didn't even faze me. I never even thought about it. I really enjoyed it. I always tried to coach a little while I refereed. Joe was really good at it. I learned really well, learned from him really well. So it's like, from my standpoint, it was something I really loved. But it all goes back to this. I just remember the time that I played basketball back in the day, and there was just some amazing players out there, college-wise, collegiately, professionally. And, I was such a big fan of Dominique Wilkins.
Yeah.
I sing his praises to anyone that ever brings up Michael Jordan. I love Michael Jordan too. I think he's amazing, but I've never seen anyone dunk the way that Dominique Wilkins did.
Yeah.
In 1985, when he and Jordan went at it, and Dominique won that one, I think it was 86 in Chicago, where Michael won the next one. And I sat there saying to myself, I'm going to do that someday. And I literally said to myself, I want to be that good.
Right.
I never could jump 52-inch vertical like Dominique, but I did dunk several times in games, and I did what I accomplished to do. Now, if I would have learned to dribble with my left hand, I probably would have been halfway decent at it. But, our family loved baseball because my mom loved baseball.
Okay.
She was a baseball player. She played baseball in Green Bay.
Okay.
Didn't talk a whole ton about it, but I can tell you this. My mom caught me till I was 13, and then she said, I can't do it anymore. You throw too hard. But
so she'd squat down and
she was our first and best coach.
So she'd squat down and catch you. So that's where you learned to pitch into your mom. Man, that's incredible. I love that. I never knew that.
It sounds like she did it with Kirby.
I never knew that. That's incredible. Did she have a catching? What was her glove?
She just had her old catcher's mitt.
Yeah, is that the position she played growing up?
Yeah, and the rumor is she caught Kirby too, which I never saw that. I was too young. Kirby's 14 years older than me.
Right,
so.
right.
But
man, what a cool image. Mom squatting down, catching heaters, right? That's pretty sweet.
Yeah. She was pretty amazing.
So, obviously the Newsa-cast being a local podcast, we've talked to the Little League folks. We've talked to Pop Warner. We've talked to, a lot of the youth organizations, and you actually have gone through like several of them. You play, Little League. I don't know, Babe Ruth's not around anymore, but, American Legion Baseball, all of these programs. I mean, you were a player, a part of them. Later on, maybe went to coach, in some areas of them. But, what was that experience like? You're growing up playing Little League. You're riding your bike, I'm assuming, to Little League practice. I mean, what was that like, that experience for you?
I don't know that I could ask for a better upbringing than what we had in Appleton. I was one of the only kids without a dad half the time. And, it was pretty cool because there were so many moms and dads that picked up the slack, and I'm grateful. My coaches were great. And, I live close enough to Einstein where I could tell you, we would ride down Union Street, cut over on Longview, or sometimes on Greenfield, sneak through the back of the fire department, go across Ford Rexall Drug, go across what is now, I guess, Walgreens. I'm not sure what it was back then, but we'd sneak that way and then head through Einstein, and we'd ride our bike to go play. And I had Charlie Royce as a coach. Greg Otta was his assistant coach. Charlie's boys had gone on years prior, but he still coached.
Sure.
And, he just passed away last year, and I still credit him with like my love of baseball, because I wasn't great at it. And he kept saying, if you try a little harder, you try to do this, you try to do that, you could be better. And guess what? One day he picked me up and said, hey, we're going to get this right and figure this out. Made me do extra work. And the next year after that, I never looked back. I was a baseball guy after that. And I do remember he would smoke about 2 packs of cigarettes every game.
Sure. Yeah.
but what a great guy. And one of those tireless people that, honestly, he just did it for no reason, he just loved to coach baseball.
Did you know at that time, I know it was all about playing. Maybe this doesn't cross your mind, but that's probably an influence for your coaching, right? I mean, you have so many years now coaching, and we'll get into that, but do you think the seed was planted at that time to be a coach?
All of those guys. In Babe Ruth, I had Dan Gast and Bruce DeWall and great people. Dan Gast is gone now too.
Oh, is he really?
He's a tremendous coach. His son Jared, who I played with, passed away 2 years ago. And Jared was just a great player and a great friend. And Dan was another one of those guys. I mean, you had to be really patient to coach Kruegers because we are, as you said, we always try to be the funniest people. We're super competitive. Sometimes we don't always handle, adversity well. If I threw a strike and I got a ball called, back in the day when I was young, I was so competitive. I didn't understand that was not right. So I think you are right in the sense that those guys would say to me, "Hey, Korey, that one pitch, don't let it set you off." And we try to use that today with our coaching too, that, hey, one pitch doesn't make the game. One at bat doesn't make the game. One game doesn't make the tournament. One tournament doesn't make the season. You know what I mean? Because things can happen that are bad. And I think, Charlie Royce was a really, really, really positive person. So is Dan, Dave Emmers, Don Hawkins, all those guys, Hawk, not as patient. I think he taught me, and so did Bruce Erickson, a little bit about, expectations.
Right.
Set your expectations higher. And sometimes when I would set my expectations higher, if I failed, it wasn't that I felt bad about it or was mad about it or whatever, but I was more, I knew what I was shooting for and how to get there. And so I guess there's, like I said, we're just blessed that we grew up in this town,
I would agree. I mean, we spoke, just briefly a little music. I mean, obviously we're blessed from that standpoint, but particularly from a baseball standpoint, everybody you mentioned, I mean, I remember a lot of those names, and you're right. It would just, maybe other towns are like this or maybe not, but it does feel different here in Appleton, that there's just some absolutely amazing people. I know I wanted you touched on briefly, but Hawk was his wife, Joni, passed away just recently. And I Hawk's up there in years. I mean, what a legacy that guy has. What did he mean to you? I guess is probably just the simplest question to ask you.
Yeah. All of us owe him quite a bit. He just was, he was, for many, 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 many years, and still is the standard for, I guess the word I would say would be like a service leader, I mean, just thankless. The years that he, it's a competitive business being a coach, especially today in all the travel ball world and all that kind of stuff that we're involved in. But I mean, what just a volunteer service leader. I mean, I remember one time we had I might get some of this wrong, but I'm pretty sure this happened, that we didn't have enough money for a trip. And he was literally soliciting people to help out so that we could make the trip. And that trip ended up being us going all the way, one game away from the Legion World Series. Some of our teams were really talented.
Yeah.
But it wasn't cheap, and he didn't have a ton of money back then. This is before the Kellers were helping him. And
right.
So, I mean, I give him so much credit, because I know what it's like when you're trying to do those things and, people help you out and give you opportunities and believe in you. And, Hawk is very good at making people believe in him. And he kept that program afloat, and you got to give him a lot of credit for that.
Oh, absolutely. What were those years? I know those coincided with your high school years, because you guys won some state high school. Did you win the state baseball in those years? And then, I mean, you got that close.
In 1991.
Okay.
Yeah, 1991, we won a state championship, and that was a pretty proud moment.
Yeah.
And then I want to say there's 2 or 3 Legion championships mixed in there too. I'm getting older. I forget things.
Oh yeah, me too. I mean, I remember that they happened, but I couldn't tell you the years. And then you forget what class everybody's in as well. If those were actually the teams you played on. But those Legion teams, I mean, I know you had Who were some of your teammates back then? I mean, I know you're going to rattle off some names that we all know.
Well, the 91 championship year, I mean, I honestly, probably the best baseball player I ever played with. I think even Matt Erickson would argue this because Matt was on that team. But Brian Van Hubel was on that team. And, he was just one of those guys when we were 13, he was a pretty okay player. And he worked so hard from that year to about 15, 16, where he just blew by all of us. While the rest of us were chasing girlfriends or doing whatever, he must have been playing baseball because he got real good. And, he was on that team. Jared Gast, obviously, Ryan McGinnis.
Yeah.
Ryan McGinnis is another one I really owe a lot to because he was the guy who always pulled me back and say, hey, we need to hit more. You and I need to hit more.
Yeah.
He and I were on the bottom of that order. And the problem with our order was we were on the bottom of the order. I mean, we could hit and we were on the bottom.
Right.
So you had to go through all those other guys. You had to go through Matt Erickson and you had to go through Jared Gast and all those guys. Charlie Speck was on that team, I believe. And so was Mark Fechter, Brian Fosbender, Kevin Allwelling.
Yeah.
Chad Barker, obviously, very good ball player.
Yeah.
We were loaded. It was something else. I'm missing people, but it was a great squad.
No, and I don't expect you to name everybody for sure. It was just some great teams, and that was the time before travel ball. I mean, it was the high school was the big thing. Those teams, that's what you played for, right? And then the Legion program, and I know they're still ongoing, but they seem to maybe have lost a little bit of their luster from those. Seem to be the golden years, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like I remember when we first made our travel teams, when I was running Players Choice, the goal was not like, oh, let's knock out all these other people. It was not very cutthroat. It was more like we had a group of kids who were doing lessons with us in an age group. And they said that parents came and said, hey, our kids didn't make the A team. They didn't make the B team. Would you be interested in making a team? So we did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we were winning some tournaments and we were beating the A and B teams. And the question was, well, why are you beating them? And, here was the reason. I was very lucky when we started our Panther program. Scott Beyer was my partner, the UW Oshkosh softball coach.
Right.
He is a fantastic coach. He knows softball inside out. He knows baseball inside out. Played professional softball, played college baseball. And but he and I started that, and we were just, wow. I mean, it was pretty neat. It was just because I was a little bit older than Scott, but I learned a lot from him. And we just did a really good job with that one team. The problem was, like anything that goes well, everybody wanted to be a part of it.
Right.
And then it grew and grew and grew, and it got too big, and that's what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we'll get into maybe a little bit, talk a little bit more about travel baseball, but I'm really just more interested in you. So you have a fantastic high school career. I mean, we didn't even mention, I mean, not only did you have great football or baseball teams, you had great football teams, great basketball teams. You guys were just very athletic classes through those early 90s.
For sure. Yeah.
Football. You like playing football, didn't you?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those sports. I never thought I was that good at it. I was always the one that I was always on defense because I couldn't quite throw the ball well enough to be the quarterback.
Right.
I don't know. I just wasn't very offensive minded, but I loved defending. Growing up, I always loved Lester Hayes and Mark Mark Haynes and all those guys. And
did you copy the stick 'em?
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. And obviously Deion Sanders. What an amazing guy to watch.
Yeah.
When I was in college, he was just coming through Florida State and then going on to play, and you're just like watching that guy, and then he played baseball too. And then one day he literally returns a punt, has an interception for a touchdown, and then goes and plays in the I think it was like in the NLCS.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I just watched a 30 for 30 on that. And I was like, I remember it. I remember watching that.
I do too.
And you just don't make them like that anymore, I don't think.
I mean, him and Bo Jackson right around that same time, those two, that was nuts when they would do that, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then I think Brian Jordan did it too, one or 2 years.
Yeah. There's a good name too. Forgot about that. Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, it's, one of the questions actually we ask a lot of the athletes that come on the Newsa-cast. I mean, your thoughts, what are your thoughts on playing multi-sports? I mean, I'm assuming I shouldn't even say I'm assuming, but your experience in travel ball. I mean, it's one of the decisions parents have to make, whether to stay with that particular sport, whatever the sport is. But what are your thoughts of coming, and you're a multi-sport athlete growing up?
Yep. Okay, this is where I get a little opinionated. Here's what I think. If Matt Erickson were standing here right now, you try to ask him about playing football, basketball, and baseball, because he was one of the best to ever do it at all three sports in the history of all the Appleton schools. I'm sure, and I don't want to speak for him, but I'm pretty sure he would say that his experience doing those three sports made him the baseball player he was. I would say the same thing. I am one of the few people who really push kids to play other sports, because quite honestly, if you don't quite get that balance and that explosiveness that comes from learning other steps and movements that can also be applied to the most difficult sport, in my opinion, which is baseball or softball. But I would also say this: baseball and softball require so much skill. I mean, there's no other sport where you have to run, catch, hit, and throw and know the rules. Because you've umpired, and think of it this way: you're refereeing a soccer match, you're umpiring a baseball game. The infield fly rule is pretty complicated for someone who plays soccer, I would guess. You know what I mean?
I would guess even some umpires struggle with it.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. You try to explain to someone who's who plays football. Yeah. If there's 2 outs and there's a grounder to second with a guy on third and the ball goes to first, the inning's over and the run doesn't count. But if there's nobody out and the ball goes to second base and it's a force at first, that run scores.
Right.
Yeah. So it's baseball and softball require more time, I think. The skills are just too hard, because if it was easy to hit, everyone would do it.
Right.
It's so hard.
Right.
And imagine pitching, the mechanics, the kinetic chain to pitch a ball, to field a ground ball and throw it to first. Probably as complicated as something as kicking a field goal.
I would think so. You know what amazes me now that they have, with technology and TV, they obviously have the strike zone box up. That is not very big, is it? I mean, they are not throwing to a very big area for a strike.
No.
And that box shrunk, I think, didn't it? I always thought it was a little bit higher. Wasn't it supposed to be the letters?
All
right. I'm showing my age.
Every umpire is different. In softball, you get some of these umpires, they really like, if someone throws a mid-rise or a rise ball, they really love that pitch. And some of those pitchers, if they get that called, it could be a long day for the other team.
Yeah.
Because that's not a good pitch to hit.
Sure.
And so in baseball, there's really no equivalent, unless I would describe it like this: that low outside fastball. If they give the pitcher 1 baseball, we all can handle that. If they are given 2 baseballs, and that happens a lot, that's pretty hard to hit,
Yeah.
Because you really have to stay in a good athletic position and stay strong on your landing and your finish to stay through a ball that low and outside. So, and pitchers who are smart, coaches that are smart, they identify that. And if that umpire gives that away, they're utilizing it the whole day,
Yeah. But it's amazing when you think about it. I mean, we're literally talking inches, the difference, and it makes such a huge difference. It's such a, they say football is a game of inches, but I think baseball is a game of inches.
Yeah.
So, getting back to kind of back to life, you graduate from Appleton West, and you go to Lawrence, and we've had some, Joe Vandenacker on, and we've had some coaches from Lawrence, and it's a huge part of Appleton, and but athletically, it's not strong athletically, but they've had pockets of really good athletics. I can remember, Scott Reppert in the 80s and those teams, right? Even your brother Joe, they had some good teams at Lawrence when he played. But the same was said when you make the decision to go to Lawrence. to play baseball, and you had a good pretty good college career.
I loved going there. So I would get picked on a lot because, being from Appleton, let's be honest. Back in those days, Appleton West was an athletic juggernaut.
Yeah.
And they would say, what are you doing? It's not very good athletically. But they didn't understand the reason I chose. And the reason I chose was very simple. Number one, my mom wasn't doing that well health-wise. And a lot of my family was kind of all over the place. My sister had just moved down to Tampa for a while and just got married and all that kind of stuff. So it was an opportunity for me to be close to home, help her out when I could, and all that kind of stuff. But the second reason was they let me play football and baseball.
Yeah. Which
Division III schools a lot of times back then weren't doing that. Other schools had promised me that, but I talked to the players and they would say, nope, you're not going to do that. But Lawrence truthfully said, no, we want you to do that. And they even wanted me to play basketball, and I almost did.
Oh, wow.
But academically, I couldn't do it. I wasn't that good of a student.
Yeah.
But there's a third reason. When I was on campus for my visit, I saw like 2 or 3 presidential candidates, and I was like, "Why are they here?" They were meeting with some people or whatever, and I thought that's really neat, And I asked the people that were giving the tour, I said, "Is that normal?" And they said, "Well, with our convocation series, you'd be shocked who shows up here." And this is where it really makes sense. So in my junior year, I get called to come over to the main hall, and I didn't know what it was, but they told me I was supposed to bring some of my work. And I thought I was going to, it was like the professors were going to talk about poetry or something, like, I don't know. So I get over there, and I had been to the convocation earlier that day. Gwendolyn Brooks, who at the time was a poet laureate, said, she came and spoke, and it was she's amazing. She wrote We Rule Cool. It's kind of like it's like bebop poetry from the 60s, 70s type of stuff.
Right.
But she's in this room. And in the room, there's like 6 other students and like 8 professors. And we're reading to Gwendolyn Brooks.
Oh, wow.
And she read my stuff and she said, hey, you're really worried about yourself. If I were you, I'd look at the world more and really explore the world and be a commentator for the world, because that's what we do as artists, which definitely helped my music too, by the way. But the funny thing is, less than 6 months later, whatever it was, John Updike was on campus, the Pulitzer Prize winner, and he did the same thing with us. And guess what? He told me, why are you so worried about the world? Worry about yourself. Talk about yourself.
Yeah.
So I get 2 different perspectives, but I don't know that my friends that went to other schools had those kind of experiences with their majors. With my discipline, I was literally being put in front of people and while I was, Maya Angelou came while I was a coach at the time. And I think when I was doing admissions too, that's why I went there, because academically, that was the best school I could get into.
Yeah.
And I really was eager for that knowledge.
What was your major?
English. I was an English major. I wanted to be a writer. I thought about, political science at first, but then I met 4 other candidates at a different time that were stopping by to talk to Larry Longley, the professor of political science there. And I never wanted to be a politician after that.
Yeah.
So.
What? So is that really what you wanted to be, a writer? Then even early on, what do you want to write about, or what's your interest? I mean, you want to be a novelist or?
Well, initially I wanted to be a poet, and then which I did, and I did a lot of it, and I got some things done, and then I had a couple ideas for books. When I became a coach and started running my own business, 23 years afterwards, after I came up with the idea, I did my first novel. I'm in the middle of 3 other ones right now. And
what is the process of that? I mean, just to get off track a little bit. I mean, how do you, and this is another question we ask. We interviewed a lot of artists from Milo Music over the last couple of weeks, and I'm always curious, and you're one of them actually, and we'll get into that, but how do you get that idea from your head in this case, out into a novel? I mean, where are your ideas coming from? How does that develop in your head do you see that novel unfold, or does it take time?
Yeah, it really does, because initially, like, one of the biggest things that I force myself to do is ideas come at me all the time. Sometimes they are comments, and I can predict them coming, and I see it, and I have time to look at it through the microscope, through the telescope, and then I write down the idea and I move on. But there's other times when I'm literally in the shower, I'm driving in a car, I have to pull over, I have to pull out my phone and use technology just to remind myself.
Yeah.
And you'd be shocked. I probably have 100 of those things, from music ideas, song ideas, poetry, poems that I come up with, ideas, because some of them just come like out of nowhere and you just start doing it.
Right.
But some of them you're like, that's a great idea, but I'm not sure if I can accomplish that right now. So for me, I think it's that upbringing, like we were talking about. I don't want you to think I lived in a fantasy world, but I definitely lived in a world where I dreamt of bigger and better things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I once heard a song called Pocket Full of Something. And it really tells you why it took me so long to become a writer, more than it was like to become a sports person. In this town, in Appleton, if you win something, people remember you, right?
Right.
If you win something, if you do well, my dad took notice. I right away wanted to win because I knew he would be proud of me. So, and I knew I'd be remembered. Mm-hmm. And it's like that, Hemingway's, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Mary Shelley, all of them that said, having people feel your presence, right. Virginia Woolf, A Room of One's Own. Like, I want my presence felt. I want my space. I think that's why I wanted to be a writer. But the problem was, athletically, I could do it a lot easier.
Right.
So, yeah. So, yeah.
So your poetry, and that sounds like that's probably your true love. I mean, would that be like your?
It's hard to say.
Okay.
Because I don't differentiate. If I write a song and I love it, and I feel like I got out what I wanted to say, what I wanted to say. Mm-hmm. If I write a poem, if I write a book, if I write a chapter, a short story, they're all there.
Yeah.
And it's really hard because I know a lot of people specify and they get very specific, but just like with my sports, I don't really have one of them that I think is any less important.
Right.
And I try to do them all, and literally I'm sitting on mountains of ideas.
Yeah.
Mountains. I don't know if I have a lifetime enough left to do what I want to do, but I'm going to sure try.
Hey, Newsa-cast listeners, help us grow by subscribing wherever you get your pods or sharing the Newsa-cast. Follow us on Facebook, X, TikTok, or Instagram. Northeastern Wisconsin Sports Advancement is a 501c3 organization. Our mission is to raise money, provide support, and bring greater awareness for youth sports organizations in Northeast Wisconsin. We do this primarily through the Red Smith Sports Award Banquet and the Newsa-cast. Each year, we give back to the community through 3 initiatives: the Every Kid Plays Grant, the Gives Back Initiative, and scholarships to student athletes. For those that are in the interview and don't know, I mean, you're part of Ill Genesis. You just played, Milo Music. You gig all over town year round. So people, can come and see you for sure. So that's why we're talking songwriting. Do the poems do the poems lead to lyrics? I mean, do those two kind of intermix? The poems show up in your music
all the time. And there was a time, we call it the golden era of hip hop music. It was basically, your 85 to about 1998. It's where you had all of these artists like Rakim, the dawn of Eminem, Mos Def, Talib Kweli, all these rappers who, Big Daddy Kane, they would say things so cleverly, and it was almost like punches. Eminem is the master of it. He says things sometimes when you just go, man, that was really good. And it's like, and like when he says it and when he wrote it, he knew it was that good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Poetry is like that because you put it down on paper, you get it published, it's out there for the world for the rest of the time. Music's the same way. You're going to put something out there. I grew up in that golden era. The golden era means quality. Nothing against other rappers, because I think Lil Wayne, for example, is a great example of this. I think he's grown and gotten stronger over time. But in the beginning, I mean, our first look at Lil Wayne was hearing him on, You're a Big Fine Woman, won't you back that thing up?
Right, right.
Yeah, I mean, I remember hearing that song, and I literally quit rapping for a while. I was like, if this is what it's going to be, I don't want to be a part of this. Because it wasn't intellectual, and it wasn't clever, and it wasn't punches. It was more just like talking about girls, rims, cars, and teeth. You know? I got gold on my teeth, and some people like that. I guess that's their thing. It's all hip hop and it's all good. I don't criticize.
Right.
But for me, I always want to punch. I want to say something where people are going to feel my presence and go, wow.
Yeah. Were you, I guess, were you kind of honing your skills? When did you start rapping? Like in high school with MTV and all of that? We kind of had access at that time to see it.
This is going to blow you away because I know you and I have never talked about this. We've talked many times. So one day, we got MTV because my brother Kirby, I think, spliced our neighbor's cable.
Attaboy Kirby.
I thank him. I watched it from the minute it came on the air. I remember watching the Buggles and a video killed a radio star. And what a fitting song. But I grew up with, seeing Billy Idol, The Police, Adam Ant, Thomas Dolby, Howard Jones, like all these guys. There wasn't a real hip hop presence on MTV. And that was a little disappointing, to be honest with you. But
when did the Beastie Boys come? What was it? The Beastie Boys
come, and Run DMC comes. And Houdini comes. Then Yo MTV Raps comes, and then so it was all out there for us. But I was I was still kind of like the Billy Idol rock punk guy, kind of guy. And I'm 12, and I go to a concert. A bunch of my friends went to the concert at Memorial Park. They used to do that. I don't know if you remember. That was Memorial Fest, they called it.
Yeah, okay.
Autograph was there.
Okay.
They had the song Turn Up the Radio.
Yeah.
They played Turn Up the Radio. They did 3 other songs which nobody knew, and they did Turn Up the Radio. They were done. It was like $10. It wasn't a very good concert.
Right.
But because there wasn't a lot of people there, I remember being there. It was like Andy Wonky was there from Appleton East. He was younger, but we were friends. We played against each other all the time. We were all up there, and those guys had like eyeliner on, and they were dressed like just really like they hadn't showered in weeks, kind of.
Right.
They'd been on the road.
Yeah.
And I saw that, and I thought, man, that's stupid, kind of, And I walked home to my house, which is about a mile away from Memorial Park there, and on the way home, I just thought there's got to be something different. And I swear it's almost like God did this.
Yeah.
I turned on my radio and I picked up like V100 or something out of Milwaukee, and I heard Nucleus's Jam on it. It's a breakdancing song.
Yeah.
Never heard it before. And I thought, this is it. That's what I want to do. And literally from that moment on, my goal was to find as much information and as much music as I could to be that person. And I was really blessed because I don't know if you ever met him, but Matt Knutson he moved to Appleton. He was from like Racine, Milwaukee area, and he was big into hip hop. And there's another guy that you probably know, and if he's ever in town, you should get him on your show, because Carl Long was our other, like, we were like we had our first rap group together. Carl was a, tremendous high jumper at Appleton East and a tremendous basketball player, soccer player too, very good. But the three of us, we were just like trying to find more information. We didn't have a car that could leave Appleton. We're all poor kids, but we wanted it.
Yeah.
And as people came to town, we had such a great opportunity to get information. One of our close friends was Rodney Washington, who went to West.
Yeah, I remember
played
him.
Football and ran track and played basketball. He lived in New York. He was from Harlem. And he would come back with Mr. Magic's and with DJ Red Alert's shows. And we're getting EPMD and Rakim and Big Daddy Kane, all the stuff that I never, Biz Marquee and, everybody, Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick. And so that's what happened. I went from walking home from Memorial disappointed to becoming a guy who wanted to do it, to getting all this information. And then literally when I was 14 with Matt and Carl, we did our first show together, and that's it. That's what happened.
Well,
so I've been doing this for 37 years.
So at that time, when you're 12 years old and you're learning about this, you're listening to Rodney's bringing you back tapes in high school or whatever?
I was about 15 when Rodney started bringing the tapes. That's when it really changed, because the best we could do is Oktoberfest. I don't know if you remember this. Remember those guys selling bootleg tapes all the time?
Well, I do remember that. I was more probably into the Grateful Dead bootleg takes. Fish, they did all that same thing. Yeah.
He had the bootleg tapes of Grateful Dead and everybody, REM, all that stuff.
I probably hooked up with Rodney.
Well, he had one tape like Biz Marquee, and I bought it and I said, hey, next time you come, bring more stuff, bring more hip hop. So this guy was from out of town, and so he kept coming back. So this guy would bring back all these tapes, and I mean, the next thing you know, I got the Fat Boys, I got the Skinny Boys, I got everything. This guy brought me seriously, I would, bring I don't know, $20-$30 down there and clean them out. I'd be negotiating. I got 20, give me all this, he was my dealer.
Gosh, that really did trigger my, I do remember those days. And the more you're talking about this, I'm sure I hooked up with Rodney, because I remember, like I said, the Grateful Dead, you get Fish. I remember String Cheese Incident, all these bands that nobody ever heard of necessarily in the, 80s, 90s. I mean, it was, it was pretty cool. Different way to, it speaks to now how your band shares the music, right? It goes out on Spotify. I mean, we can all get it on our phone. It doesn't work. We don't need Rodney anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rodney.
I know. Yeah. So, it's amazing too, because we were talking to some other artists that were down at Mile of Music, and literally, you talk to them, you like them as a person, you look up their stuff, you listen to their stuff. Now you got a friend. Yeah. Now you've got someone from Memphis, from Davenport, Iowa, that you never met before, and now you're listening to their music. And that's what Mile of Music is doing.
100%. Well, just from a fan perspective, a non-musician, it absolutely did that. The Pajamas, man, that band to me was the best band I saw, minus your band, was the best band I saw all weekend. They were just insane. But from an artist perspective, do you have a chance to hook up with other artists and just have those kinds of experiences?
Yeah. We've been really lucky, especially since hip hop has really kind of come into its own with Mile of Music. I'm really, really proud of the owners and presenters of it, of the ideas that they said, you know what, we're going to do this, because there are a lot of really good artists out there, Twan Mac and King Miles. And but the other thing too is some of the bands are like Pegasus. I could watch those guys. Listen, the harmonies those two guys, those sisters have in that band, I could listen to that all day long. I'm a rapper who sings a little bit. I'm Anthony Arrington in our group is a beautiful singer. The guy's got one of the best voices, but it's I always wanted to be a singer. It's kind of like me wanting to be a basketball player. I just wasn't very good at it. And so it's I really appreciate good singing, and that's fun stuff. So.
Well, while we're on this subject, and you mentioned Anthony, I mean, what is the story? How did you guys form? I mean, it formed basically in Lawrence, didn't it, during those years? Yeah.
Well, so and we were at Lawrence. We were all in Plants Hall. Plants is on the corner of I think it's on Meade and College. It's the one that's kitty corner to Kohler, which is the highest one, the highest dorm. Sure. And we called ourselves the poor boys of Plants. It was all the financial aid rejects were over there. And we were, we met. He's from Chicago. We instantly became friends. Tracy Donald, who's an Ernst Kajust, who also were from the same high school and same area as Anthony. They were all friends, and I just instantly became friends with those guys.
Yeah.
Tough to break into a group of guys like that have been together their whole lives.
Yeah.
But they were very good to me, and we shared a lot of music. They were blown away by how much knowledge I had. They're like, how'd you get that up here? And I'm like, well, I explained to them. They're like, oh, cool. Well, we traded and got more information. And then, but the thing is, we never did music together. We were always talking about it, always saying this, saying that. And then we graduated, and Anthony and I did a couple of songs together where it was in a time, rap used to have kind of a formula. You rap and then you chanted some chorus, or you had a DJ scratch a chorus, right?
Okay.
There was never anybody like really singing a chorus. And then all of a sudden you got like Ja Rule and all those guys, now you got J-Lo singing, so we're like, we could do that. Anthony, you should sing, I already had Matt Knutson doing some of that too with us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of got together, then went our separate ways. But he was back in the Valley working for Kimberly Clark. And it was literally 2007. And that's when I'd kind of given up rap for a while because I was coaching baseball at Lawrence. And I just didn't have the time. And I really wanted to get back into it. So we convinced each other that we were going to do this together, and we did.
Yeah.
And Il Genese's been together since then. So it's been years of this.
How'd you come up with the name?
Well, this is a great story, Joe. You're going to love this. So do you remember Dan Taylor? He used to play softball out at Memorial Park, the old guy. What happened was Dan he was a Latin professor at Lawrence, but he speaks fluent Italian. And he would always talk to me in Italian because I was interested in it. And I took Italian at Lawrence as my language.
Okay.
It's usually reserved for people who are opera singers, but apparently if you're a decent baseball player, they let you do it so you don't have to get a D- in Spanish.
Okay.
So what happened was I learned some Italian, so I could speak to him like, on a 5-year-old level.
Right.
So I went to him and I said, hey, I'm going to throw this out at you. Anthony and I are trying to come up with a name. We don't have a good one. I said, we always thought De La Soul was a cool name, the band from the 90s that did hip hop.
Right.
And, we thought that was cool because nobody else had a name like that. He goes, all right, Korey, I'm going to come up with this and we're going to meet. So he calls us one night and he says, you got to come to Mark's East Side. Why Mark's East Side? I don't know. Apparently we were going to get a Schnitzengruben or something.
There we go.
So we go over there. We proceed to have 4 or 5 old fashions because he won't tell us until we have the old fashions.
That's key.
And then he says, listen, he goes, I love the band Genesis. Do you guys like Genesis? And, Anthony and I are like, yeah, Phil Collins is amazing. He's an amazing guy. And they're like, well, in Italian, it's Genesi. It means the beginning, just like Genesis. So he said, IL is, the IL, Genesi. So the beginning. He said, but what if you changed it to ILL because you're sick from the beginning? And this was he had to be about 75 at the time. I don't know. Anyway, he says that's what we're gonna do. And so he comes up with this name. It sticks. Not everybody can pronounce it correctly, and that's fine. That's the whole point of it, because De La Soul was very exotic and unique at the time too. But we stand out.
Yeah.
And once people get it, or they just call us IG, because that's what a lot of people do, it's kind of it's a pretty dope name.
100% when you explain it like that. So Genesi, well, first of all, I mispronounced it earlier. So I'm one of the
Genesi. You have to think of it like you're Fabrizio from the Titanic movie, and you have to say Genesi.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Genesi.
Yeah, all there right. You go. You got it.
What does it mean? What is the definition?
It's the beginning.
The beginning.
Just like Genesis.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sick from the beginning.
Yeah, sick from the beginning.
Dude, I love that. That is fantastic. Sick from the beginning.
Yeah.
You got to put that on a T-shirt and sell those.
Yeah, we've got them. I'll get you one.
Oh my God, I would wear that proudly. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I never knew that. So that is fantastic. Mm-hmm. And you guys, so you're legit. You've been around for a while. You have at least 6, albums, projects. I'm not sure what you call them out, right?
Yeah.
And Spotify, I mean, is that pretty much the way is Spotify it? I mean, other than seeing you guys live, I mean, what's Bandcamp? I know is a thing as well.
So we do everything. We're on Apple, we're on Amazon, we're on every major, Spotify, SoundCloud, everything. So it's like we're even on YouTube.
Yeah, oh, nice.
So we put out it on everything. So if somebody doesn't want to pay for it, they can catch it on our YouTube channel. If somebody wants to use it as part of their streaming service, they can do it there. It's everywhere. So
excellent. Yeah. Do you guys videotape your shows? I mean, and put them
Some
on YouTube?
Some of them, yeah. And we got a couple videos out too. Joe, I'll be honest with you. It's a little tough because when you're old, it's not like I'm riding around in a Maserati sipping champagne and Cristal. And we're not that group, but when we have a good song and we feel like it's got something to say, Yeah,
I mean, like you said earlier, you're putting it out there, man, for all to enjoy. And that's what I love about it, just it's been interesting because a lot of the artists, I'm sort of surprised, maybe not surprised, but a lot of the artists we talk to, they love just giving their music away. I mean, certainly they want to make money off of it, but their theory is once you, kind of like a book, once you put it out there, it's out there for the world to take. It's not theirs anymore. It's the world's.
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of comes from my mom. I think getting back to her, it's, it's if you should always get paid what you're worth, but at the same time, if you love something, it's really not work. Yeah. And we love making music. As a matter of fact, tonight, my son and I, we're going to record a song tonight. And my son, Tony, is actually our producer and our engineer.
Nice.
So
when he was got the music
12,
bud?
Yeah, when he was 12, he went down to the Arts Academy, did percussion with Dane Richardson's crew of people. He really got into it, and but then one time I gave him this thing. It's basically it's called a Reason. It's a beat making program, but he started using it for recording and doing other things too.
Nice. And he also, so he's kind of following in your footsteps. He's playing baseball as well.
He's done now. He played out at UMBC out at Baltimore County, known for their basketball prowess. They beat Virginia a couple years ago in the playoffs. But he loved it, and then he went across the ocean and played over there over in the Netherlands and played pro ball and came home this year, and he's been helping me over at the school. So
yeah, that's awesome. Let me see if my memory's correct. Was he a catcher?
Yeah. I've got a middle infielder daughter who plays softball, and he plays catcher. So
no, that's awesome. And he has the music bug. That's got to be pretty cool as a dad, right? To do kind of have a project.
It's really neat, Yeah, we can share that, and it's he loves hip hop. He's a great writer in his own right. I mean, he's an English major too. My daughter is a like I said, she's a middle infielder. She loves all music. She's a Mila music fanatic. She's
nice.
Loves all the bands. Can give you all the information on every single one of them. Researches all of them. Obviously, I'm glad that she's still a fan of our shows and comes to ours. But I think if it push came to shove with some of her favorites, we might get pushed to the side.
Yeah.
But she's our whole family loves music. So
no, it's special. I mean, I do too. I almost like it more than sports, to be honest with you. It's I know you love both, but do you have? I asked Lily Collins this question. Does she prefer running? What's better for her, the high of winning a race or being on stage doing a gig? I mean, for you, what's a bigger high, having a huge win in baseball or just being on a stage jamming to to a large
I think
group?
all of them are the same for me. I really, honestly, and she probably, I don't know what her answer was. I haven't seen that version of your show, but it's all the same. And it's because I have to honestly say that like they're all different like highs. They're all different like different amps. But when you're doing it right, and at the end of the night it all works out. Whether you win a championship as a coach, or you have a big strikeout as a pitcher, or you make an incredible song, or you write just a poem where you're like, man, that's a good one. I think it's that moment where, the hair on the back of your neck stands up and you did something good. And I don't know. To me, it's the same.
Lily's answer was pretty similar. It probably is hard to define, especially when you're, just when it's your true love, both things. They're just, it's hard to define. Well, one thing we haven't talked about, and I mean, we're already an hour into this, and I mean, we could literally have you on for 6 hours and probably not cover everything, but a lot of you, half of your life now, probably, right, or close to it, has been coaching. I mean, you finished playing at Lawrence, and I mean, you couldn't have been older than 23, 24 years old, and next thing you know, you're a college baseball coach at Lawrence.
Yeah. I was lucky to get the opportunity. I certainly knew baseball really well. I had a lot to learn about people and a lot to learn about management of coaches and of time and of my arsenal. I definitely think I'm a better coach today than I was back then. I'm constantly growing. I always tell people that any coach that tells you they know everything usually doesn't,
right?
Because I can't tell you a day that I didn't learn something. And so I just feel like coaching to me is a lot like playing because it's constantly evolutionary. You're constantly evolving. However, I like coaching more. I like coaching more than I like playing. And I can't believe I'm saying that.
Sure.
If you look back, but someone once said, "Oh, you did this, you did that," or whatever. I don't really care. And neither should the parents that I coach or the players that I coach, because what they really need to worry about is, hey, can I get them to the next level? Can I get them where they need to go? Am I the right person? And I want to, just like when I write, just like when I do, I want them to feel my presence. Mm-hmm. I want them to know that I'm there and I'm doing something. And, I think that's why Don Hawkins did it. I think that's why Bruce Erickson did it. I think it's why Charlie Royce did it. It's why Dan Gass did it. So I owe it all to those guys because they probably set me off in that right direction.
You definitely have. I think that's your strongest suit as a coach is you do have, I feel like almost unlike just about any coach, that you have a special connection. Like kids connect with you. Maybe not all of them, but the ones I've seen certainly. And I don't know, it's just you probably being you, but there's a strong connection between a player and a coach, between you two, almost unlike any I've seen.
Well, those kids at Lawrence, when I was first there, oh man, I would get so frustrated, only because like part of it was, and I always tell them this, I say, now that you're older and and I just ran into one of them at a tournament where I was coaching some younger kids, and I talked to him quite a bit about it. I wasn't mad at them for failing. I was mad because I was frustrated that I couldn't get them to do what I wanted and what I could do. And when I stopped playing, I stopped worrying about whether or not they could do what I could do. And I tried to make them the best version of themselves. And I think that was a moment, and I guess I should mention a couple more names too. And I hate to skip people. Lots of great people influenced my coaching. Jeff School and Rich Agnes, who was a football coach at Lawrence, and Rick Coles and Dave Brown and all those guys. I had Ron Roberts for one season too, by the way, a legend. Yeah, so I was very lucky. But probably one of the strongest influences for me as a coach, not necessarily as a player, was Gordy Gillespie.
Oh yeah.
So he coached at Ripon.
Sure.
When I was beginning my career, mm-hmm. He literally took me, Joe, to breakfast one morning at Perkins because he didn't like the way I was coaching.
Really?
I was so mad. I'm like, what's this guy going to tell me? And I ended up having breakfast with him, lunch with him, and dinner. It got dark.
Wow.
And we spent the whole day together. I got a master's class in how to be a coach. I knew a lot about the game, and I knew a lot about being a coach, but the things he was telling me, they were so obvious and simple. I can't believe I didn't come up with them. And one of them was this. He said, "How much time do you spend on first and third situations?" I said, "I don't know, 4 to 7 hours a week." He said, "Okay, how many hours do you spend on bunt coverages?" I said, "It's about the same. I don't know, something like that." He goes, okay. He goes, let me ask you a question. How do you start a game? And I said, I don't know. The umpire says play ball. He goes, Korey, how do you start a game? And you said I do impersonations.
Yeah.
Gordy sounds like this. Here's what it sounds like. How do you start a game? Because he's an older guy with a raspy voice.
Yeah.
And here I am having breakfast with a guy who was in, his character was in the movie Rudy. So here I am having breakfast with him. And here he's telling me, you got to throw a pitch. So work on pitching, because if you don't have good pitching, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
He goes, what does everybody have to do in your lineup? And I said, I don't know. Field it. No. What does everybody have to do in your lineup, no matter what? And I thought about it. They have to hit. He goes, yeah. So make sure that everybody in your lineup can hit, and make sure everybody that comes in can hit a little bit better than the other guy. Okay, whatever. Then he goes, how do you get off the field? These are the questions he's asking me.
Sure.
And he goes, you got to get 3 outs. You got to field the ball. You got to learn how to catch it and throw it. And then he said, what wins close ball games? Now I'm feeling like a real idiot. I don't know the answer to this.
Yeah.
I played for Bruce Erickson. I can't answer that question. You know what it was? He goes, base running. Better base running wins close ball games.
Yeah.
So he goes, if I were you, I would stop not monkeying around with bunt coverages and first and thirds and all this other crap that you're doing. Every time I play you, you're so worried about bunt coverages and all this stuff. Hit better, practice it, field better, practice it, throw better, pitch better, be a better base running. And the next year we beat him 3 out of 4 times.
Yeah.
And he was so mad. He goes, I'm never telling you anything ever again.
So no breakfast?
No, but listen to this, Joe. This is the kicker. This is what he did. He says, hey, we got to pay for this. We had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'd already had to make 3 phone calls back home saying, hey, I'm not coming home, because people are looking for me,
Yeah.
And I forgot my wallet. It was in Appleton. So for the next 5 years that we play, I come in, hey, short arms, deep pockets, can't find it. He would just pick on me, but he became a really good mentor and a really good friend. And I owe him a lot. And so when you ask that question, the high, there's no greater high than learning, putting it to practice, and seeing young people light up because of it. That, to me, that's it. That's the biggest high, I guess. I just answered my own question.
You did, dude. That was the most incredible answer we've had to date. I mean, that's, and as a parent, sending a child to go play with you, I mean, that's, you can't ask for anything more. I mean, you talked about, you're responsible, to get the kid to the next level. As a parent, I mean, maybe that's partially true. I just want my coach to teach my kid that, to be a good human, because that applies now to everything in life, right? You get knocked down in a job, you got to apply that philosophy.
Yeah, it's well, and that's the thing too. And there's so many good coaches in this Fox Valley right now. So it's like, I don't know. We all have our influences. I was just really lucky to have those guys and have my mom, who honestly, like, she was just the strongest of all of them, because I never saw anybody climb on top of so much crap in my life and just always keep a smile and keep it light.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. So you're coaching Lawrence. You have a great career, but you're learning to be a manager, and we don't have to spend a lot of time here, but you dip out, still baseball related, but you dive into Player's Choice, and basically the world is really changing at this time as well, because now travel sports, whether it's baseball, basketball, soccer, it's becoming a thing, and it's really becoming a thing. And you're diving into that world as well, and using your coaching skills to try to make that as better and a good opportunity for kids to play travel ball at least at a reasonable price and have a good experience with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think, it's the model was new at the time when we did it. I mean, you're talking about, I think it was 2008, 2009 when we first started doing it, Scott and I, and nobody else around here was doing it. There was the Racine Hitters, they were called, and there was the beginning of the GRB teams in Madison. But up here in Appleton, we were the first. And now there's quite a few, and it's awesome. I mean, I think that's a sign that, obviously it's worthy of people's time. I can't tell you how many people I argue with who don't agree with travel ball and all that kind of stuff. But, I think, if you want to be good at something, you have to play at it at the highest level as best you can. And it's really difficult to do that if you're not doing that. So the other thing I would say is this: people that criticize it, I want them to take a look at the number of Division I baseball and softball players, right? And Division I football players, women's and men's basketball players that came out of the Fox cities in, let's say, 1989. Mm-hmm. And take a look at it today. I mean, I just told you, like, Alex Breckenheimer just stopped in here and said hello.
Right.
He's on his way to Kansas.
Right.
He's from Chilton. How many people do you know from Chilton who are going to be playing at Kansas?
Yeah, exactly.
And guess what? He came through travel baseball. So the reason I bring this up is the opportunities are there through these travel programs, and the numbers are justifying it. They're saying, hey, listen, if you want to play ball, this is how you do it. And my argument would be this: whether you want to play Division III or junior college or 2 or 1, it doesn't matter. You can make it there, and everybody can play. It's just a matter of what level. And if you work hard enough, you can do anything you want. That's the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Skipping ahead, I love, you're now with the school. It's a fantastic story, really, just your facility alone. What you've done in Kaukauna. I remember, tying it into the Red Smith Banquet. You were nice enough to allow us to shoot some back in when COVID was going on. Of course, the banquet wasn't able to go on, and we had fun that day. Shoot with mirrorless, did a nice promo video there. But what a facility, and what a cool story. I mean, I can't remember how the building's 120 years old. I don't even know.
It's old. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. So today, I don't appreciate the oldness, and neither does my son Tony, because we were attacked by a bat.
Oh, were you really? No way.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure he came from the tower.
Yeah.
But somehow he made it in here, and on a rainy day, he was just swooping us for about a good 5 minutes.
Dang.
So, but we opened the door, got him out the door. He's safe now. So.
Nice. Well, minus the bat, for people that don't know, I mean, this is an old elementary school in Kaukauna, and there's other businesses in it, but you have a portion of it, like the gym is yours. Think of an old elementary school gym. What you've done there is, I mean, what a facility.
Yeah. The cool part is, so we've got like the old principal's office right next to the lobby.
Yeah.
And then we turned that into a team room, and in there we've got like air hockey and ping pong and foosball, but then we can also drop down our projector, and we can actually do training for like college prep stuff, and we'll go through like okay, in this situation, this is what happens. Look how they handled this. Look how they handled this. It's really, really, really beneficial to us, because we are called the school for many reasons. One, because we're in a school, but also because we want to treat this more like an academy.
Yeah.
Where it's learning, and teaching and all that kind of stuff. And then we got the gym, and then we took over the old lunch ladies area.
Nice.
So now we have that. We turned that into a weight room.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. So a nice little addition. So we got a little bit of everything over here. It's perfect size for softball. It's a little bit too small for baseball sometimes. Mm-hmm. We can throw bullpens in here for baseball, but, we can't do the ground balls and stuff like we can for softball.
Sure.
But, we still utilize Player's Choice. We rent from those guys.
Nice.
And, love the fact that we get to go out there still. So
yeah,
I get a little PTSD sometimes because it still has the same smells.
I can only imagine. I keep thinking about the sorry kid, 75 years ago that's sitting in the principal's office, and now you guys are playing air hockey in that same space.
That is the truth. And then the other cool thing is, if you ever get allowed to go up into the tower, there are carvings up there, and some of them are as old as turn of the century, 1904, 19. Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. So it's living history.
I might have to get on my bike and pedal my behind over to you. Yeah,
it's pretty cool stuff.
What's the schedule like then, actually, for your teams? you mostly play in the summer?
Yeah. We do some fall and winter stuff too.
Okay.
Especially, everyone does. Every one of our teams does. But for the older kids, it's a little bit more for exposure opportunities.
Sure.
The younger kids, it's more just for development and stuff like that. But we have a little bit of time off right now. We just got done with tryouts. We just sent out all of our offers and stuff like that. So that's starting to ramp up. Then we'll have some meetings. Then we're gonna go for it.
Sure. What is your take on the state of youth baseball, youth sports? What you feeling good where we're at right now? What's your take?
I think that's a loaded question.
It is. I know that's a tough question, and I preface it by I feel like maybe travel baseball, just travel sports in general, maybe are starting to sort themselves out. Maybe it's just because there's more opportunities in everything for kids. But maybe from say the Panther days when maybe that was the height to now what you have going. I feel like things maybe could be slightly leveling off. But
yeah, my biggest thing is just like you talk maybe it's because I'm a nostalgic. I believe in like that golden era of hip hop because you'll never see anything like it. It was unprecedented. When travel ball was new and fresh in the state of Wisconsin, I think there was severe and sincere competitiveness to make good teams. I think the tough part about today is not everybody has the background to be an organizer. Mm-hmm. Although they may love it and have a passion, which is awesome. That's pretty much what you need. But I think it seems like in every turn, there's a new team popping up with a tryout. And there's only so many good players in a metro situation like this one. It's not Chicago. It's not 4 million people. So I think sometimes it does get a little watered down. That's my take on it. But
sure.
I that's not my goal. My goal is not to have the most teams. My goal is to have these kids go off to do quality things. Yeah. So, people say they don't believe me when I say this. It's the truth. A team could lose all their games, but if I get 8 kids to go to college, isn't that really what it's about?
I think so.
So I kind of, so for me, I don't care about winning and losing. I would like to win because I'm a competitor, but the 24-year-old Korey, before he talked to Gordy Gillespie, thought that way. The 51-year-old Korey, who knows what this is about and has 2 kids who have graduated from college and had most of their college paid for, they can tell you that, and I can tell you that there's a different way.
Yeah, that's growth. That's really well put, and honestly, probably a fantastic way to end this interview. Like I said, we'll have you on again. I think we'll start to have some recurring guests on, and you're definitely one of them.
Hey, we got to have Tosh.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
And I was telling you, and for the folks, obviously this isn't our full-time job. We're not professionals at this, so we do have to work around crazy schedules. And I've found out the hardest part of podcasting is just getting schedules right. We all have crazy schedules, and to hook 3 people up for an hour, in this case longer than an hour, it's tough.
Joe, I know you have to go, but you have to hear this one more story because it involves Tosh.
Oh, let's do it.
We're sitting there at Lawrence University practice. My shortstop is a very young and future All-American and Lawrence Hall of Famer Andrew Wong.
Okay.
Great player from Milwaukee, Wauwatosa area. And he's struggling at fielding and doing some stuff. And out of nowhere comes this guy with, that hat that Rocky Balboa wears in the Rocky IV movie.
Yeah.
The one, it looks like the old boxer hat,
Oh, yeah.
He's got a trench coat on, a white T-shirt, and some jeans. And at first I didn't really recognize him, but then I realized who it was. And he goes out to shortstop and he starts yelling at Wong, stops practice, takes Wong aside, and starts teaching him all these things. Wong keeps looking at me like, what do you do? Why are you letting this guy do this? Why are you letting this guy do this? And we do work with all the other kids and do some other stuff and finish practice. And Wong goes, I can't believe, if you know Andrew Wong, he's a very humble man today and a millionaire probably, I'm guessing. I know he's on Lawrence's board of trustees. He's the smartest kid I've ever met, but next to Carl Long. But he's saying, hey, why did you let this guy come out there and yell at me? And I said, I don't know. Maybe it was because he's the 1957 Rookie of the Year and 7-time All-Star and 9-time World Series participant, Korey Krueger, who used to play shortstop and bat second right in front of Mickey Mantle. And he goes, really? Can you get him back? So I should also say that Korey Krueger had a big part of play in my life. He was like a second father to me too. So his son used to date my sister.
Oh, okay.
And Tony used to take me up to Eagle River and take me fishing. And I mean, it was an amazing thing. I asked him one time, I said, hey, Tony, when you get into fights on the field, what do how do you handle that? And he said, I have a guy on every team that I roll around with.
Oh, that's awesome.
He had a buddy. Yeah. So I could tell you those stories all day too. So.
I mean, what a guy. I wish we could have him on this. I think we're past that time, but boy, you talk about baseball memories and him with Joe Garagiola and those Saturday afternoon baseball games and Mel Allen. Remember This Week in Baseball? And I mean, Saturday afternoon watching baseball on whatever NBC, ABC, whatever station that was. It was just the best memories ever. For 10 years, Joe, I've been working on a song called "How About That." Oh, I love that. You do Mel Allen?
Yeah.
Well, I got to hear it.
I just remembered This Week in the Twib notes and
Can you do your Mel Allen?
How about that?
Yeah.
It's so good.
Who else can you imitate here before we stop recording?
Oh God, I'm going to get myself in trouble. Next time we do it, I'll give you a couple. What you really should do is you should get Joe on the air and let him go off. He'll give you. Then you'll have Paul Engen, you'll have Bruce Erickson, because he can do them all. Gary Lemons, everybody, he'll do them all.
Yeah, his talent is second to none.
All right, Newsa-cast listeners, we have a clip from the famous Red Smith Sports Banquet. This is featuring the one and only Bob Gibson. Joel, he was something. I think you kind of described him as what was that?
I used the term red ass, Tosh. Yeah. He was a definite red ass on that mound.
You didn't want to mess with him.
No,
you didn't want to get on his bad side. Well, there's a story out there that somebody did get on his bad side back in 1975. What was
his name, Tosh? It's escaping me.
The name of the individual who hit a grand slam off of Bob Gibson in his final game was Pete Lecoq. And
great name.
It's a great name. But he actually came up and they faced each other in an old timers game several years down the road. And you know what Bob did? Bob plunked him right away.
Yeah.
And it was funny because Bob Costas talked to Bob Gibson about that. And he goes, what was that for? And he goes, the books must be balanced, Robert. The books must be balanced. So he never forgot. He knew what was coming. He knew he was going to face him, and he knew he was going to plunk him. So you get to hear a clip of the great Bob Gibson, and it's fantastic. But remember, if you want to see the full throwback with Bob Gibson, remember to check out our YouTube channel, right, Joe?
That's right, Tosh. You'll hear Pete Lecoq on the YouTube channel as well, but you won't hear Bob Gibson talk about him.
Red Smith Sports Awards. Banquet Throwback.
The Red Smith Award, of course, goes to someone who has made some unique contributions to sport in Wisconsin and also epitomizes the great values that Red Smith exhibited.
Let's give a Red Smith welcome. our 2008 Red Smith winner, Bob Gibson.
Thank you. Thank you. This is really kind of a strange event for me. I just found out like 2 weeks ago that I was going to be here. And I got a letter thanking me for agreeing to come to Appleton, Wisconsin. Where's Appleton? You know, I mean, I know where Wisconsin is, and I don't know where Green Bay is in Milwaukee, but is there anything else? And there's Appleton. And I called this agent that I used to have. And I said, I got a letter from somebody in Wisconsin thanking me for agreeing to come to this banquet, Red somebody or another, Smith. And he says, well, yeah, we talked about that back in September. September? I can't remember day before yesterday. It's talking about September. So I says, okay. And I said, then now there's another problem. And he says, what's that? And I said, well, I see on this the papers here that I get a nice guy award. I said, they got the wrong person. Just no way. I played for 17 years and nobody ever called me nice about anything, and I was not nice. I was talking to a guy about pitching inside and this and that. Jerry Davis is here, and he knows all about that. He's an umpire. He came, and just to rub salt in the wound, he came to pick me up at the airport. I said, what's this nice guy stuff? He says, I don't know. He says, maybe they got you mixed up with somebody else or something. I don't really know. I says, well, it's nice that they want to honor me that, and if they see me that way, maybe somebody saw me away from the ballpark. Away from the ballpark, I'm a different guy. Sometimes. But I really appreciate your asking me to come here. This is the only place I've ever been that's as cold as Omaha, Nebraska. That's where I live. And I got off the airplane, I got this big jacket on, I got a scarf, and I got everything. And I get off the airplane, and I'm, like I'm doing now, sweating. I said, where am I? This is Wisconsin. I said, no. Omaha is it's colder than this. This couldn't be Wisconsin because I saw the game last week. I was watching the game. Anyway, I really appreciate your inviting me to come. And I guess I should probably talk a little bit about my career. And I think for those who don't know about my career, I was not a nice guy. Trust me. The game has changed. The game has changed. We used to be able to throw a ball in off the plate, and not necessarily throwing at guys or stuff. Let me tell you, you really don't scare guys by throwing at them. If anything else, you make them mad. To throw inside is one thing, to throw at them is another thing. And what you want to do is to make a hitter not sure whether you're going to throw inside or outside. That's the trick, to keep them guessing. And a lot of times, if they're looking outside and you throw inside, they'll hit themselves. It happens a lot of times. And then everybody's mad at you. And I really never had a problem with guys wanting to come out and beat me up and stuff. I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, in a housing project. I fought every other day, and I was not afraid of a fight. So if you're going to come out, make sure you weren't just kidding. We got plenty of time. And once the game's over, or once the fight's over, now we got to continue the game. Anyway, I guess I could tell you a million stories about my career, and a lot of them are funny, a lot of them are not, and most of the stories that are not, I won't bore you with, because so often you hear all of the bad things that has happened. And let me tell you, I started playing in the 50s. So 1957, 51 years ago. And the thing that has happened since 1957 to today is phenomenal. And I would love to be out there today making $13, $14 million a year. That would be wonderful. But the best thing of all is when I started, and I go to spring training, I was staying in different facilities than the white players. And they expected me to perform as well as the other guys. And I love to say I perform better. And but to see that change, and I sit and just smile now. I really smile to have seen the transformation from the 50s until the 2008, 7 or 8. And we still have a long way to go, but I guarantee you, it is really wonderful. I'm still glad to be involved. Actually, I'm glad to still be alive, but it's getting better, and I'm seeing it, and I appreciate that. Thank you for inviting me. I hope you have a nice time. Thank you.
All right, Tosh, Bob Gibson, he's another tough SOB. You talked about Nolan Ryan. We just brought you Bob Gibson. You could not find any two tougher pitchers than those two guys.
Absolutely.
No doubt. Well, with that, Tosh, we're getting to the end of the show. A great show, baseball show. A lot of good BS between you and me. And we can't get out of here, Tosh, with a little It's Forgotten. I'm never forgetting. So what's forgotten in your world this week, Tosh?
Well, it's not something that I want to forget, but our outdoor music season is winding down.
Yeah.
So, we have to forget that outdoor music season and look forward to the special venues that we have to hear some good live music indoors coming up soon.
No, you're right. You are absolutely right. I mean, music is year round. There's awesome indoor venues, but it's funny you bring this because I was just thinking this on Sunday of this past week. There was one or two places that had some music on the patio. Sundays before that, there were dozens of places that had, music outdoors.
Yeah.
And you're right. Stuff is kind of winding down. Labor Day is around the corner. Basically, football's here. It's we're transitioning, Tosh. A little bit sad. It goes so gosh darn quick every year, doesn't it?
It does. It definitely does. But we had with Mile of Music, we always have a good music season here in Wisconsin, in Appleton, and there's always good shows to see, and we'll have some good shows coming up through the fall. But yeah, don't forget, places like Poplar Hall and Gibson and,
Appleton Beer Factory,
McFleischmann's, all these places pop up, and we see some great musicians coming through. And that Mile of Music connection is not something to forget about, because there is good music all over.
Two low-key ones. I've mentioned them actually in the past, but the Commodore Club has some great music, and Rookies also sometimes, or Misfits as well. Misfits has some pretty cool music as well. And in the Martini Lounge, Deja Vu, I mean, so many places indoor. Chadwick's has great venues and music for sure. Can't wait for those.
And also, Speaking of outdoor music, we have to just mention on the 24th, which is this coming Sunday, you get to hear two groups that kind of have a little bit of history with the Newsa-cast. Ben Mowana is going to be playing at the Fox River House, and Diggstown is going to open for him.
Yeah, that's going to be good.
Yeah,
great show.
So get over to the Fox River House on Sunday and check that out.
It's
going to be a special show.
No, absolutely. That's another great venue. Great that they're back there is really nice. They redid the stage. It's a cool spot for sure. Absolutely. Cannot wait for that, Tosh. Indeed.
So, Joe, what are you forgetting?
Well, Tosh, I was thinking about this the other day, and it's definitely forgotten. And with Korey on the episode today, it really ingrained in me that the good old-fashioned wiffle ball game, Tosh, it's just gone. The one that we played on the side yard, I played for hours. Late 70s, early 80s, man. I was the Los Angeles Dodgers. I was everybody. I was Bert Hooton with a filthy knuckleball. I was Charlie Huff with a curveball or whatever. Fernando Valenzuela would bring heat right up to the eyeballs. You know, you could whip pitching innings limits. That wasn't a thing. You just chucked every day, and then just to hit that ball. I mean, we kidded around, Tosh, earlier about the leather marble sack, but there was nothing finer than really driving that wiffle ball right back at the pitcher, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. You know what I mean? If you weren't taking that thing yard and having to wait for cars and cracking those wiffle balls and cracking the bat, and then you'd have to put the broomstick in the bat, tape that up with probably duct tape, and you could play another week or two, but. That doesn't happen anymore, Tosh. I know I've seen there's like some bars or just some niche places out there that have wiffle ball fields or courts, and those are pretty cool. But we played right out on, growing up, I played right on Pershing Street.
Yeah.
And that was my field.
Yeah. You made up your own kind of dimensions and everything. And, I know there's some, I caught it, which is unbelievable. There's like wiffle ball on ESPN the other day. Or ESPN2 or something.
I saw that.
Yeah. And they're throwing some filthy curveballs and stuff. But a little crazy.
Those things would literally, they have to move 8 feet, right? I mean, they just, it's absolutely nuts. I don't even know how you hit that.
No, exactly. But yeah, wiffle ball was definitely a good time. Yeah, you don't see people playing that at all anymore.
No. All the different grips, the sinker, you could screwball, curveball, right? The knuckleball, play around with that thing. Just good old fashioned fastball. Then you're calling your own balls and strikes. So that of course leads to arguments with your buddies.
Yep, exactly.
Go all Earl Weaver on him. He was our influence. Earl Weaver and Lou Piniella, right?
There you go.
Just go nuts. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so that's a forgotten thing of the past, Tosh, or good old fashioned wiffle ball games with your buddies. It's a shame that we had to forget that stuff. But how about you? What's something you're just never going to forget?
Well, something I never forget this time of year, and since we're in a full baseball, seems like mode this week, a Little League World Series going on.
Yeah,
what a great time. Just love watching. I don't sit down and watch like the entire games and stuff like that, but it is fun to catch some games and see what's going on. And if you're sitting around at a restaurant and they have the games on, it's fun to watch. It really truly is. And what a beautiful facility they have out there in Williamsport. It's that end of summer thing that is just a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it'd be kind of cool to go out there. I know Jerry Davis, from Appleton and he's come to the Red Smith Banquet for years, but he was involved with the umpire. I know he's umpired games there. He's mentored groups out at the Little League World Series. So yeah, it's what a cool, it's truly that is truly a World Series, right?
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
Teams from around the world to play.
Yep.
And they might be older than 12, but hey, it's the Little League World Series.
Yeah, most of them are bigger than I am, so.
Yeah, no doubt. Feel that.
So what are you never forgetting, Joe?
Well, Tosh, for me, it appears that I am never going to forget a Mile of Music band that I just literally can. They have 8 of their songs now are on my most repeat Spotify list, and that's hard to break into in 2 weeks. But it's the jam. It's Pajamas, man. I cannot stop listening to those guys. I
cool.
freaking love them. Follow them on social. You know, they're playing gigs all over the place. Kind of cool that's from Ann Arbor. I mean, that's got to be a good college town. So I can see where they're probably a really good college band. But gosh darn, I'm glad that I discovered them because I am listening to them a ton. Live at the Livery, I think, is what I've been listening to. It's their live stuff. And,
Okay.
yeah. Prince Zuko and all of that I've listened to dozens and dozens of times now.
Well, they need to come back to Appleton for you.
I know, I would love that. And, you know, Kendall Street too, they're playing too. How epic would that be? Have those two here? But
there you go.
It'd be exactly, Tosh. Can I get on my hands and knees and beg and plead with Mile of Music to just have them play Gibson Hall for the weekend?
There you go.
Just kill it.
That would be
absolutely
awesome.
Kill it. Or maybe we can get Eric Krieger. Maybe they'd play. Maybe they could play out at
Crystal Ballroom.
Crystal Ballroom, yeah. Crystal Ballroom.
Well, that would be fantastic. I mean, maybe somebody's listening here and can make that happen for you.
Oh, please. It's my one and only wish. Somehow, some way, Pajamas, come and play. Come and play. Well, Tosh, I get on my hands and knees and beg for that. I think this episode of the Newsa-cast has run its course, I would say.
Sounds good. Remember to go check out those socials and don't forget to subscribe.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, folks, for another one. Tosh, always a hoot. And we'll catch you folks again next Thursday.
Thank you for listening to another great episode of the Newsa-cast. We'd really appreciate it if you hit up our social pages, subscribe, like, follow, and don't be afraid to engage. Head over to our YouTube channel to get exclusive content like the full interviews and speeches from the past Red Smith banquets.
A huge thank you to Diggstown for all the music in today's episode. Catch a gig or find them on Spotify.